Which superpower sounds great in fiction, but would be an absolute disaster in reality? If you get an IQ of let's say 500, everyone else is dumb, and you can't even speak to them without getting mad. No, you definitely can. Being smart doesn't make you unable to speak to people without getting mad. It's being in a hole that makes you mad. I get your point, but just imagine how frustrating it would be to have a PhD, but everyone you talk to is a 5-year-old. After the 100th time you explain why it's a good idea to look both ways before crossing the road, you're probably going to get a lot less patient. And then someone asks you about string theory, and you about die of excitement from having someone to talk to, until it becomes apparent they think the world is held together with yo-yo strings. Being able to hear other people's thoughts, especially if the power is always active. This was going to be mine. What a horrible way to live. You'd either turn into some hardened jerk who knows how horrible humanity is, or some wilted and broken human who cannot meet people's expectations. Imagine wondering if each thing you say is going to be okay to be able to fit in, and when you ultimately can't, you would feel completely and utterly alone. Awful. I think you could only lead a semi-normal life if it was selective, and you could turn it off. Like, focus in and hear this person's thoughts at this very moment, not all the time always. The latter sounds awful. Can you imagine your teen years if you could hear everyone's thoughts? Ugh, on the other hand, knowing when someone wants to get it on with you would have its advantages. The ability to go through solid objects. See you at the center of the earth, cause that's where you're going as soon as you activate it. Wait, what happens once you reach the center? Do you just keep going? Nope, you're stuck there because of gravity. No, you die, and you stay at the center, unless of course you're going so fast you might fly out the other end and come hurtling back, but you will end up in the center, and also dead. Ability to talk to animals. I feel like that would become annoying very quick. Imagine if you have a termite or ant infestation in your home. Suddenly you're hearing hundreds, if not thousands, of voices every second you spend at home. Couldn't even sleep. Well, between spiders and ants and other random little insects that do live in our walls attacks crawls, you'd already have that problem. It would be the absolute worst. Immortality, it would start off great being able to do anything without a care in the world. 80 years later all your friends and family and everyone you love is dead, not so bad, happens to a lot of people. 120 years, you're the last of your generation and everything and everyone you ever knew is gone. 200 years, you have either been there for a nuclear war, famine, plague or something else. 500 years, everything is different, everything you ever learned in school is now useless to you, all you are good for is scientific research and can tell stories of old. 2,000 years, Earth is no longer the human race's home planet, you've now lost your friends, family, purpose and home. 20,000 years, you are not considered to be an evolved creature as humans have already evolved past Homo sapien, and you have not only seen the great advances in human history, but all the despicable, disgusting and horrible atrocities that have happened. A few billion years, chances are you are the only being left that originated from Earth, and everything you have ever known is lost or useless. 1x 101,000 years. Cold, nothingness, quiet, dark and alone. But guess what? You still have forever to live. Eventually you will see the death of the universe and perhaps even the birth of a new one. These universes will continue to be born and continue to die, and you will still have forever to live. Earth, humans, your childhood, your generation, your universe will all be a distant fading memory. And you will still have forever to live. I would still take it honestly. I mean, depending on what type of end of universe there is, I feel that the heat death of the universe there is no surviving, even if you were immortal. There would just be nothing left since the universe just collapsed back into a singularity. But yeah, it would really suck for the cold death of the universe. But in a billion years I would assume some form of life would be able to reform stars. I mean, technically I would just be fission on a scale humanity has never dreamed of. Maybe you'd survive the heat death after getting squashed into almost nothingness, then expand back into a human and experience a new universe. For me it depends on the type of immortality. Complete inability to die would suck, you will eventually be stuck floating through space for an eternity until you go mad. Being immune to diseases and not aging would be pretty awesome, however, maybe even throw in a small healing factor so you recover from injuries over time, but could still die if you were thrown into the sun or deprived of oxygen for a couple hours. The idea that it would suck because you have to watch everyone you know die seems ridiculous to me. Life is about change, you lose people anytime you move to a new city or get a new job, but then you find new people to care about. I also don't see myself getting bored of life anytime soon. If I aged and my body and mind deteriorated on me, then sure, but thousands of years spent in the body of say a mid-30-year-old would be amazing. Think of the people you could meet and the things you could see. Plus after a couple hundred years at most you're rich just due to the power of compound interest, so it isn't as if you would have to spend all that time working a job scrubbing dishes. I agree. If I were gifted immortality I wouldn't take it unless given a one-time use option to end my immortality and be able to die. Dating would be pretty awkward after the first couple decades, though. Whatever your physical appearance, you're going to be at the maturity level of a grandparent dating a college student, and it only gets worse from there. You say that as if dating is already awkward. I still think you could find people, however, even if it became harder, the ones you did find would become the kind of people you remember centuries later. Imagine asking out a 4-year-old. Now imagine that one day you might ask out their grandkid. Except that a 4-year-old is literally mentally undeveloped. There are plenty of young people who are mature and plenty of older people who are still immature idiots. Maturity isn't something you just get as you get older, it's something you have to achieve. Some people achieve it young, some old, and some never do. Pretty much any power would be garbage without a secondary power to back it up. Super strength. Unless you also get super durability, you can't punch any harder than an average person without your bones breaking. Flying. Don't go too high or you'll freeze, and don't get lost without some kind of landmark in sight. Telekinesis. Depends on how it works, but if it's on a molecular level, then you have to somehow focus on each molecule of an object, or if it's just applying force to a specific part of something, then the object has to be able to support its weight from where you apply force. Most superheroes have a big list of secondary powers inherent in their main power that allow it to function. So many: super strength, break everything you own all the time. Super speed, blindly run into a wall at 800 miles per hour. Invisibility, now you're blind. Flight, hope you don't fear heights and can't get exhausted and fall to the ground. Read minds, people suck. Super durability, hope you don't ever get sick and require an IV or any surgery ever. Plus with any superpower, people are going to want to know how you do what you do, so they are going to try to study you. Therefore the best superpowers are the low-key ones like a healing factor or luck. I mean, a lot of these depend on your control of the power. Even if you are super strong, if you show restraint you will be able to not break things you touch. Speed is as simple in controlling how fast you go. Invisibility is a hard degree. Flight is learning your limits. Just like running. Reading minds will suck super hard if you can't control. Durability, like unbreakable skin, can really suck as well. But depending on where you live you can say no to studies. Even if you can control your super strength you still can't lift big things, as the weight placed entirely on your hands would tear through most object, so you're basically just left impressing people at the gym. For super speed, what is the point if you can't move faster than a car? Also, wind resistance is a thing. I also wouldn't trust foreign authoritarian governments or corporations to not kidnap you to experiment upon or just have you killed, so you can't threaten them, assuming your own nation isn't actively malevolent enough to just do so themselves. Any power, period. If you do anything outside the norm, the governments all over the world will see you as a threat. You either have to join them and have them dissect you, give them your blood, so they can make super soldiers, or control you and make you a weapon. Like they were doing with Wolverine. Well, anyways, the best power to have is having Dragon Ball Z powers. And teleportation and super strength. I'm not sure why people think super strength can't be controlled. We have super strength in our own ways, and yet we can either do something lightly or do something very hard. Like petting a dog or cat. And one power that all life on Earth have already that's I guess going well is the power of adaptation. We can adapt over time, making us bound to live anywhere we want and deal with anything else over time. And we can already clone ourselves, so that's cool too. Just need the opposite sex to do so. And most of all, we have intelligence. We can think. It's crazy to even have these powers as it is.